Apa kabar semua? Annyeong, konnichiwa, and sawadika. Happy Wednesday and a very warm welcome everyone to our ninth and final session of the 9-part tNavigator Southeast Asia webinar series hosted by Rockflow Dynamics in Kuala Lumpur and Jakarta. My name is Larissa Zimmer from RFD Kuala Lumpur, and today's session will be hosted by my colleague Ari Krishna, who is a senior geologist based in our RFD Kuala Lumpur's office. We would like to thank everyone who registered and allocated their time today to attend these webinars. We will continue to ensure and provide our best support we can during this unprecedented time. If you have any inquiries, please do not hesitate to reach out to our support team for assistance, as we are available for you 24/7. Before we begin, I'd like to provide a brief run-through on how to navigate yourself during this webinar session. Once you've logged on, you'll be automatically muted, and should you have any questions in mind, please use the window in the control panel on the side of your screen and ask away at the very end of this session. If we are unable to answer all the questions live, don't worry. We will answer them afterwards, after the webinar session, and share it to you via email. All of our webinars were recorded and uploaded onto our RFD Europe YouTube channel under the Southeast Asia playlist. Last but not least, if you have any further inquiries, feel free to reach us at asktnav@rftyn.com. A brief introduction and insight about us. tNavigator was developed by Rockflow Dynamics and was incepted in Moscow, Russia. It has been in development for the past 15 years, releasing over 4 software updates annually, and is written in C++ and CUDA with over 4 million codes. We are based worldwide with over 50 support engineers and geologists in 32 offices across 28 countries and over 100 software engineers supporting our development. And as of 2020, we are proud and humbled to have over 290 commercial clients in 42 countries and over 80 universities in 28 countries. We thank you for being with us on this journey. For today's topic, we'll be discussing about geophysics and tNavigator. This webinar series will be hosted from one of our Southeast Asia offices, and for today's session, we'll be coming to you live from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. In today's webinar series, we will demonstrate you each stage of the integrated workflow that's available in tNavigator. If you're interested to learn more on our modules, do not hesitate to get in touch with our team, and we'll be more than happy to assist you. So without further ado, let's begin today's webinar session. Thank you so much, Ari.
All right, thank you very much, Larissa. And I would like to thank everyone who already attended this webinar before and now coming again to this particular topic. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Ari Krishna. I'm the senior geologist working for Rockflow Dynamics based in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So for today's topic, I will cover geophysics in tNavigator. So most of us already aware that tNavigator is a very powerful simulation applications, right? It is famous because of its scalability, its efficiency, and its integration across disciplines. But many not aware probably about its geophysics functionality, right? So this is the most common question that I receive from our clients, mostly from the geophysicists, whether tNav can do seismic interpretation or not. So in this particular webinar, I will try to cover this as much as possible, at least to give you guys some flavor about our geophysics capability in tNavigator. So if we go back in 2005, 15 years ago, that's where our company started. It's a humble beginning where it just started by few people, right? Developed some simulation software. They at that time wouldn't expect it's going to be this big as today, right? So we started as a simulation software, and we're adding more functionality. It's still related with simulation, pre-simulation, post-simulation, and some history matching functionality. But within the 15 years time frame, we managed to develop so much more. We added a lot of subsurface capability, including static model building, right, all the way to surface and network modeling. So by current date, I would say probably we are the only company in the world that have an integrated software like this, all the way from subsurface to surface, and it's all built in-house by one developer, one team, Rockflow Dynamics. So if we are focusing on the subsurface part, tNavigator now is already an integrated static and dynamic modeling workflow. We already have a complete package offering from geophysics, well correlation, modeling, all the way to reservoir engineering, simulation, and history match. Right, so we cover all of this, and for this today, I will just focus on the seismic part, which will end this webinar series, where we have hosted about 9 for Southeast Asia, and we also hosted global webinar, 12 global webinars so far. Right, so for particular today, I'm going to focus on the seismic. So in tNavigator, the GNG workflow by itself covers everything from data loading, data handling, seismic interpretation, well correlation, modeling, all the way to volumetric and uncertainty. And this is offered everything in one module, which we call Geology Designer. So by accessing Geology Designer, you're already not only having geology functionality, but also geophysics. So let's start with the seismic. For today's session, I will try to cover these 4 main topics. I will try to give you a flavor of what and how far we are in terms of geophysics. So the first one, I will cover the seismic visualization and interpretation part. And secondly, I will continue with the seismic attributes. The third one, I will cover seismic geobody and seismic resampling into 3D static. And then the last part will be the machine learning, which is our newest functionality. So in tNavigator, for your information, our geology designer has just only been recently developed and commercially released, which was released in 2017. So it's only 3 years ago compared to the simulation, which started in 2005. So in a way, geology designer is still relatively young. And especially the geophysics part, I would say this is our youngest baby in all of our modules available in tNavigator, right? So in 2017, we couldn't even load seismic data yet. And then we're adding more capability, we're adding loading functionality of the seismic. At that time, you could only visualize it, you cannot do any interpretation. But later on, 2018, we add a lot of interpretation functionality. So yeah, you can do now 3D auto tracking, you can do 2D tracking as well. Of course, all the manual interpretation you can do as well now in tNavigator for both your 3D and your 2D data. And then you can, of course, have the multiple display, interactive color bar, and seismic slicer. And for seismic attributes, this is also considered quite new, right? So we're only adding seismic attributes in 2018, and we adding more in 2019 and 2020. At the moment, we have 6 lists of attributes. We will plan to add even more seismic attributes in the next few releases, right? So what we have available right now is these 6 seismic attributes. So let me start with the basic visualization and interpretation, right? On your left side, you can see here is the 2D data, and on your right side is a 3D. So there will be some software demo that will show you in this slide. So let me start with loading our 2D data. As you know, tNavigator is just an executable file. You don't have to install it under Windows registry, so that's why it's very light. And to create a new project, you can just simply make a new project there. Let me just rename it webinar for today's session. And then you start with a new blank project here. And to be able to load the seismic data, it's very straightforward. You just have to browse where your seismic data is, whether it's in your local PC or it's on your server. right? You just browse the directory, and then for your 2D lines, you can just import all your 2D lines in one go. And if it's in one vintage, then you can make sure the setting is the same. Of course, you can still set the settings for your loading parameter, right? And then once you're happy with it, you can just press apply, and all those 16 or 18 lines will be imported straight away, right? And this is how you display it in your 2D data, right? And then, of course, to have an idea of how big the data is, you can make a quick measurement by using the ruler icon here. And then it's about 400 kilometers, more or less, times 350 kilometers, right? So it's quite a big data here. And then, of course, you can also display it in 3D, right? So just display it like that. And yeah, you can display your 2D lines in 3D and 2D window. And if you have dual screen, of course, it will be better. Okay, so now let's go to the right hand side of the image here. This one is the 3D cube that I loaded. So it's already loaded in tNavigator. Of course, you can set the scale, the vertical scale, right, to see a better structure there. And let's say I already have an existing interpretation for some lines here, maybe some inlines and crosslines. And I just want to straight away go for my 3D auto tracking, right? And you can set the parameter whether it's going to be snap on the peak or trough. And then, of course, you can play with the seed confidence. The higher the seed confidence, of course, the less distribution of the tracking you will get. Let me make it higher, and then you will have very less here. And then for this particular session, I'm just going to make it lower, so I have a larger distribution. Right. So yeah, you have that already in an instant, right? And then, of course, you can also display this in a classical 2D seismic interpretation window, something like this. And what I like about tNavigator is it's very interactive. You can set the lateral scale or the vertical scale just by putting your cursor on the left-hand side there, and then it will set the vertical scale. Or if you go to the top there, and then it will set the lateral scale just by scrolling on your mouse. Right? So it's very convenient, very straightforward. All right, so let me go to the next slide, which is our main functionality in tNavigator, which is the connection between your geophysics and your static modeling, right? So let me go to the demo here. So I have a two display here on my 2D display here, showing the offshore of Norway, North Sea here, and also on the right-hand side there is my 3D display, right? So you can import every seismic data, your image data, your polygon data, and everything into tNavigator and display it like this. So let me go deeper now here under the sea, and let's see the seismic data there. Right, so you can combine 2D and 3D data all together as well, right? And then, of course, you can manipulate it in 3D window, how you want to display it. You can zoom in, zoom out, very convenient, very fast, especially, right? And then you can display all the data that you want to see, right? And there is some 3D data over there, much further north from Norway. So let's focus on this particular area here. So I have already a 3D grid, right? So the beauty about tNavigator is if you already have a 3D grid available from other application, you can just simply load it in using rescue file or rescue ML, which we are implementing in the next release. So you can immediately have all the 3D grid properties, the horizons, the faults, and the properties as well. Right? So in this case, this is an example of an existing 3D grid that I loaded in my tNavigator project here. And I also already have a geobody distribution based on the channel that was picked by the previous, let's say the previous geomodeler or the previous interpreter, right? So what I want to do now is I want to create my new seismic attributes, right? So I've just created a workflow just to make it faster here for demo purpose. And I also include some of the seismic resampling. So I will resample few of the attributes into my 3D grid. So now you can see immediately I have my list of attributes displayed in 3D window very quickly, right? And then after you have created the seismic attributes here, that will create the resampling into your 3D grid. And of course, the resampling of your 3D grid, you can either do a resample for all the cube, or probably you want to do a more conservative way. So you make a 2D map, you can convert that into a probability map, and then use that map as a constraint for your 3D model later on. So it works either both ways, right? You can resample it as a 3D property, or you can make a 2D map out of your attributes. So this is an example of your spectral decomposition attributes here that I created inside tNavigator, right? So yes, you can also display according to a filter. So as you remember just now, I already have an existing geobody as a property. So I can just use that as a filter, and then I focus on that particular geobody area as well, geobody only. And then you can see now my attributes that is resampled into my 3D grid only display the geobody part. So it's a very convenient way to work with your seismic attributes and your 3D data as well. Okay, so the next slide, I will show you the next functionality, which is, this is quite unique, and I would say it's rather useful, right? So instead of creating geobody based on your seismic extraction or seismic rendering, which depends on the value, you can have a more deterministic approach by digitizing polygon or on your inline and crossline, and then populate it later. So if you see here, I have some inline here. I digitize my channel surface here, right? Channel geobody, and I can do it across several inlines and several crosslines as well. And then I fill that in with properties. Let's say just a constant discrete value first, right? And then populate it to the entire 3D grid like this. So kind of have an interpolation between my inline and my crossline. So let me show you that in my software demo here. Right? So I have the same data set as I showed you before, but now instead of relying on the geobody that has been done by, let's say, by the previous interpreter or the previous modeler, I want to make my own kind of geobody geometry, right? So again, you can display multiple display here, classical seismic interpretation window together with your 3D. And of course, if you have dual screen, it's going to be much better, right? And then you can start digitize on it, right? I already have a existing digitize of my polygon here on several inline, several crossline, right? And then if I display all the polygons that I have digitized, maybe there are about eight to nine here, right? And then based on this, I can fill that in. I fill that in with properties, so it's part of your 3D grid like this. And then after fill that in, you can always choose it with your seismic data, whether it makes sense or not. And then you can interpolate it between those inline and crossline where you digitize your polygons. So it's a very convenient way to have a more deterministic kind of approach if you are not comfortable with the existing geobody rendering, right? So it's an alternative way to have a more confidence in your geobody distribution. Okay, the next topic that I would like to show you here is one of our newest functionality, which is machine learning for seismic characterization, right? So this particular functionality, if I'm not mistaken, is just available on 2019.4 version, which is just last year, end of last year. So it's pretty new, right? I've been using it for demo data set so far, and it looks pretty good. If you guys are interested to try it on your actual data set, feel free to contact one of our local local representative office there. Right. So in this case, basically, what we want to achieve is you input one of your attributes. For instance, this particular example, I want to use my spectral decomposition to detect my geobody distribution or possible depositional environment, right? And then I want to have several classes as a starting point to basically tell the software to train based on the seismic data how much classes, sorry, how the distribution of those classes is, right? So the more classes you put, the more pixelated you will have the result. So let's see on a demo data set here in the software, right? So I have an example here. This is a different data set from the previous one. So it's not a channel geobody. So the body is not really that obvious, right? So let me make a new attribute, a spectral decomposition here as an input for my machine learning. And then I can just go to my machine learning function, which is available under the workflow here. So let me open it up. Let me also display a structure map here to overlay it with the result of my seismic cluster. So let's start with 4 cluster here. So it's kind of like a unsupervised method here where you put your number of classes there. And you can see the higher number I put there, the more pixelated the result will be. Maybe it's more suitable for lithophases, right? But if you are only focusing on your EOD distribution, right, whether it's a carbonate ramp or it's a channel body, then probably lesser classes will give you a better indication of your possible boundary of your depositional environment. So yeah, that's available in the newest version, the 2000 version, 2000.1. And again, I would like to emphasize geophysics functionalities in tNavigator is available under geology. So once you have the geology modules, all the geophysics functionality will be available as well without any additional charge, I would say. So if you already see based on my presentation just now, we started only in 2017 for our geology module, right? 2017, we started with no seismic capability at all. And then we add more functionality. You can load it, you can load seismic data in, but at that time, you couldn't do any interpretation. And then we put more functionality. You have your auto tracking available for your 3D. And then early in 2019, we put geobody functionality as well. We put more attributes, spectral decomposition, and cosine phase is one of the most recent attributes that we put in. And of course, the machine learning, which I would say it's pretty helpful for a quick kind of observation of how your EOD should look like, or how your lithophases is distributed in your seismic data, right? So you can see only within 3 years we have implemented a lot of things, not only in geology, in static modeling, which maybe you have already seen the previous webinar, but also in geophysics. In fact, geophysics will be one of our key focus and key target to implement much more functionalities, especially related with geomodeling. So the seismic capability will be focused on how it relates with the geomodeling in tNavigator. So if I can recap today's session, again, it's just to give you a flavor of how far we are in geophysics in seismic. So again, it's an integrated geophysics and geological modeling tool, right? It's available in one module, right? So once you get that, you have all the functionality, geophysics and geology. And you can do seismic interpretation and visualization for both your 3D data and your 2D data. We have now 6 seismic attributes. We will add more attributes in the next coming releases, so stay tuned for the updates, right? For geobody and seismic sampling, as you can see from the demo just now, it's already there, and it really helps for any geomodeler that want to incorporate your seismic data in your modeling to have a better confidence, to have a better constraint, and reduce uncertainty in terms of phases distribution and petrophysical distribution. And the last thing is we also include machine learning for our seismic classification, right, which will help you to have a quick understanding of how your seismic distribution should look like, maybe your depositional environment or your lithophases. So by that slide, it ends this webinar for today. Now we would like to welcome you for some questions and answer session.
All right. Thank you so much, Ari, for that impeccable presentation. So as spoken earlier, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, kindly include them in the control panel and we will answer them for you. We will open the floor now to your questions. Okay, Ari, I think we have our first question. Question number 1. Can you import seismic attributes or seismic inversion from other software into tNavigator?
Okay, yeah, very good question. I forgot to emphasize on that. So yes, exactly. You are able to import or load any seismic attributes or seismic inversion cube from other software, other application, right, into tNavigator, as long as the format is a standard SegWide format. So yes, you can. So for instance, you already have you created your seismic attributes or your seismic inversion from other software. You can just simply load it into tNavigator, and you can use that to control your static modeling later.
Okay, question number 2. Can tNav do in-depth conversion?
Okay, yes. So this particular webinar, I haven't got a chance to cover that topic, but yes, tNavigator now can do depth conversion, right? It's pretty much a simple depth conversion. So it's based on an equation, right? Or you can, if you already have a seismic velocity, you can load it in, and we can use that seismic velocity as a velocity model for doing depth conversion from time to depth, or the other way around, from depth to time. However, for your information, at the moment we are not able yet to build a velocity model natively inside tNavigator, right? But if you have a velocity seismic cube, you can use that and use that in tNavigator.
Okay, question number 3, back to you, Ari.
All right, let me see other question that I can see. Right, so I saw also, okay, this is related to the previous question, how do the velocity model work here? So again, this one, in tNavigator at the moment, we cannot yet create velocity model, but we can do depth conversion if you have a velocity cube or you have an equation. That's as far as we can do at the moment. But again, of course, we will implement more things of this related with depth conversion and velocity model in the future. So just stay tuned with our releases, and we will update it we have new releases, 4 new releases every year, and every new releases will have new functionality added in. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ari, and thank you everyone and to our attendees for all the questions. As for the remaining questions, we will address them accordingly after this webinar session, and we will email it to you. If you'd like to rewatch this session, you can find all of our webinar materials on our RFD Europe YouTube channel under the Southeast Asia playlist. We would like to thank everyone who has been diligently following this series, and we promise to bring you more in the upcoming future. We thank you for your continuous support. There will be a short survey for you to provide your comments at the very end of this, and we welcome any feedback. We will leave the webinar running for an additional 2-3 minutes to welcome and accept any further inquiries and questions. Till then, we hope you enjoyed the session and we look forward to seeing you soon. Selamat menyambut Hari Raya Aidilfitri in advance to those celebrating. Take care and stay safe.